What's up, everybody? This is why the A-10 shouldn't actually be retiring. The A-10 is being phased out of the US Air Force with a most recent announcement that the A-10s in South Korea are going to be gone by 2025. Is this really smart? Let's take a second. Can we take a deep breath? First, let's take a deep breath and look at this footage of the A-10. Here we go. That's high explosive incendiary rounds going off. That's actual combat footage. Oh, yeah. That's just a beautiful sight. Guys, if this doesn't get your blood going, I can't help you. Wow. Yeah, just the feeling that ground troops would have seeing this A-10 slay like this. To me, it's really hard to justify retiring this thing right now. And I'm gonna give you a lot of reasons throughout this video why I feel that's the case. I mean, look at that thing. It just took down that entire tree. If you had insurgents in that tree trying to target troops, there's a lot of different things that this A-10 does extremely well. And it's just, they're trying to replace the A-10 with the F-35. That's what the Air Force claims. So I'm gonna tell you why this A-10 should not be retiring, all right? And we're gonna watch footage. I'm also gonna be flying the A-10 in Digital Combat Simulator. That'll pop up on the side here as I'm talking. There's some high explosive incendiary rounds right there, but as I'm chatting about the A-10, about the capabilities of it, I want you to see me flying it, and I want you to see low angle strafe, high angle strafe. The replicator in DCS, the way they've replicated the A-10, from what I've gathered, is actually really good. It's the way that the pipper works, the way that the gun works, is pretty decent from what I've heard. So we're gonna be flying that thing, watching these videos. This is actual combat footage like I talked about before. It's just smooth. If you need a Phillips head screwdriver to screw in a screw, you get a Phillips head screwdriver. If you need close air support, you get an A-10. And throughout history, what the Air Force has liked to do is really focus on technology, which is great. We need super advanced technology to go up against surface-to-air missiles, some of the electronic warfare that's out there in the different contested areas that you would actually fly and go into to, let's say, drop some sort of a nuclear facility in Tehran. What you would do is you would really focus in on the electronic attack, stealth. That's when you need the F-35, the F-22s, the B-2s. But then when it comes to close air support or COIN, counterinsurgency operations, you're really gonna want the A-10. The A-10 is gonna be the bread and butter. And I operated alongside the A-10 many times in Afghanistan. We'd be in the F-15E, up in the top of what's called the stack. The stack are the different aircraft that are over a certain tick, a troops in contact situation. Now, the A-10s would kind of be down in the dirt. They'd be, somewhere around 100 to 500 feet, and they'd be low angle strafing down there. And then F-15Es, we would be up top and we would do high angle strafe. So we could actually strafe from a further distance away. And then we would be dropping JDAMs, Joint Directed Attack Munitions, which the A-10 can do as well. The A-10 can also shoot the AGM-65, the Maverick. It can do all kinds of things that you would want in a traditional fighter like an F-16 or an F-15E, albeit it's going to be in a more vulnerable position as it's down low. So as you will see in a lot of the videos of the A-10, it's constantly puking out flares after it does its gun runs on a target. And that is incredibly crucial because as they're down low, they're susceptible to what's called man-pads. And those can be shoulder-mounted grenade launchers, rocket launchers, anti-aircraft weapons that are shoulder-mounted. At the end of the day, the A-10 is down there in the dirt. It is with the troops on the ground, and there's nothing like it. That's why when I look at the retirement of the A-10 coming up, it really makes me think, hey guys, let's take a deep breath, because we've talked about the AT-6. The Air Force has talked about, hey, maybe we need the AT-6. Why not just keep the A-10 around a little bit longer, let's say another 10 years, extend that lifespan of the A-10, give the A-10 the ability to continue to operate over in the Middle East in very, very interesting situations where you need a jet that can get right in the face of insurgents operating in Africa and Somalia, with all these different contingencies that are going on around the globe. Having something that is a Phillips head screwdriver for a Phillips screw is always good. The next thing I want to talk about are the flying costs of the A-10. The A-10 costs about $22,000 per hour to operate, and that includes everything from fuel costs, maintenance costs, paying the maintenance crews, the pilots, all the different longevity inspections that are going to need to be done over the course of flying the A-10. Those are all intertwined into that $22,000. Now, it's not a low number. Obviously, going out and burning $22,000, no big deal, but an F-16 is going to cost you right around $26,000. And the F-16, while good at close air support, the speeds that you have to fly the F-16 at are going to make it to where you're not as down low, you're not as close in as you're operating in a close air support situation. Very similar to the F-15E, the F-16 is going to be operated very fast and is good for JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munitions, some strafe, but it's not going to carry that big, beautiful gun that the A-10 is built around, and we'll get to that here in a second. Don't you worry about that. The F-35, though, which is slated, as the Air Force claims, to replace the A-10, is going to cost around $40,000 an hour to operate. So we're talking basically double to operate. And if you're up there in a stealth fighter going up against insurgents in Somalia, do you really need to spend $40,000 an hour? Or is there a way for us to have an A-10 squadron that's over there for half the price? You could get twice the airframes operating specific missions in the Middle East, near Syria, in Africa, all these places where we need sortie count. We need multiple jets out there to support the operations that are going on. Now, if you have one F-35, that's all you can get up in, let's say, 1,000-mile radius, great. Now you've got one option. If you've got 10 A-10s up there, now you've got 10 different options. You've got so many more chess pieces that you can use to put the troops that are on the ground in an ideal situation where they constantly have close air support. And that's the name of the game in these contingency operations around the globe. Cool, we're gonna do contingency operations in Africa, Middle East, great. You gotta have some fighter support. You gotta have jets up there that can lay waste to any insurgents that are gonna come in and try to overrun our friendly forces. The next thing I wanna talk about, though, is the ability of the A-10 to target drones. The A-10 can carry the AIM-9 Lima, Mike, and the AIM-9X. There's a joint helmet mounted queuing system on pilots in the A-10. I've used the joint helmet mounted queuing system in the F-15E, and it is Gucci, baby. That thing is sweet. I'm telling you, that thing is so amazing when you can look outside the jet and see a little diamond over top of your target, or you can look up in the air and you can see who you're locked to, who your buddies are locked to. There's so many advantages to that. But with all the drones, all the drone warfare, which has essentially changed the game. There are drones out there that can literally be dropped into the ocean and then can hatch, come to the top, and then fly to the target and explode. They can be sitting in the desert and then they can be awakened. So if you had a squadron of A-10s that could just lock and load with AIM-9Xs, AIM-9 Mikes, AIM-9 Limas, we've got a lot of those things sitting around, the Mikes and the Limas. Let's get rid of some of those, put them on A-10s, have the A-10 squadrons go up there and become drone killers, just lethal drone killers. So that way we're not wasting an F-15E sortie for 5 or 10 drones. You put up 3 or 4 A-10s. They're gonna be slow movers just like the drones are, and they can target those drones in a more efficient way instead of an F-15E, an F-22. Think about the F-22 targeting the balloon. Maybe you need to get up to altitude, so you do need bigger engines, you need an F-22 or an F-15E, but if drones are operating at mid to low altitudes, which a lot of these drones do, then you just throw a few A-10s up there and you make those the drone killers. Because at the end of the day, economy of warfare matters. Again, F-35, $40,000 versus A-10, $22,000. So many advantages to the A-10 in my opinion. Now let's talk about that big, beautiful gun and how that gun is a game changer. The A-10 has the GAU-8 Avenger, and it's special because it can fire at a rate of 3,900 rounds per minute. And that delivers more ammunition to a source, to a target, in less time. It gets rounds on target in a way that will stop enemy vehicles. It will stop troops that are trying to go in and attack friendly forces. There's so many advantages to having a gun that big. And it's a 30mm round, which can be loaded with depleted uranium if needed to help pierce through and penetrate into tanks. But it's a great anti-vehicle, anti-truck, anti-tank weapon that is so versatile. You can use it in mountainous terrain. It can basically work its way through and around rocks. It can work its way around vegetation. We just saw it in the previous video, saw down that tree. I mean, there's so many advantages to a gun that's this powerful and has the dispersal pattern that it has. It is just purpose built and is specifically meant to take out a variety of different targets. It is such an advantage to have a weapon that is adaptable to so many different regions that it's just crucial that we keep something like this around. 80% of the rounds that are fired at that roughly 4,000 rounds per minute are gonna hit within a 20-foot radius. That's why as the pilot, you hold that pipper right where it needs to go. Within 20 feet, those extremely dangerous rounds are gonna hit. And then as the pilot, you can adjust. You can even do a double strafe pattern where you strafe a few tanks and then you move and adjust your pipper and you strafe other tanks. That's the beauty of having that slow speed coming down what's called the chute. As you're coming down the chute, you can basically target one section, target another section. I don't believe they do 3, but who knows? If you had enough distance away, there's a chance you could do that as well. But in the F-15E, the F-16, the F-35, you're gonna do 1. You are not gonna pepper 2 different spots because you're going down that chute so fast that if you misprioritize, you forget to put a switch in the right position, now you have to go through dry. You cannot shoot because you're going at the ground so fast. That's why the A-10 being low and slow, you have so many different options and abilities to get rounds on target with that GAU-8, that big, beautiful gun. Like we talked about, the gun is armor piercing as well, and as a G-Whiz, the gun fires once it hits the 9 o'clock position. That's where the rounds are gonna come out. Now, something I wanna highlight too are the training requirements of the A-10. I'm gonna pull up this chart here from Air University. Some awesome A-10 pilot put this together. The initial qualification training for CAS in the A-10, you're gonna get 8 sorties. And then yearly, you're gonna get 22. That's just awesome. And they're focused on close air support, which is huge. And then advanced training, you're gonna get 9 per year. It's gonna be less for the F-15E, for the F-16, F-35. At the end of the day, the A-10's bread and butter is close air support, counterinsurgency, and we can't discount the fact that this is a mission that needs to be very proficient in the US Air Force. And this bad boy is built to survive. So you've got 2 very resilient non-afterburning engines that are up above the wing line. So they're not gonna ingest FOD. You can land on dirt strips, you can land where there's big chunks of gravel, and that engine is not gonna suck up those rocks. So it really puts you in a great position where you can operate this thing from very austere environments. And then pictured below is Captain Kim Campbell's A-10 that was damaged during Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. As you can see, this beast had chunks blown out of it. The entire hydraulic system was blown out of it, but she was kept safe because of the titanium bathtub that the pilot sits in. But this jet made it back to base, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, an F-35 and F-16, even an F-15E. F-15E possibly close to this amount of damage might still be able to make it. I mean, F-15s can fly with the wings ripped off, but an F-16 and F-35, likely you're gonna be punching out over enemy territory. Now you've got a whole other set of problems on your hands. So the fact that this A-10 made it back is just a testament to how resilient this thing is. The A-10 actually has self-healing wings as well, where those wings will fill with foam as the jet receives fire. So something that's resilient is extremely important. Like we talked about, 30mm armor piercing 7-barrel gun. That is nothing like it. There's nothing like this thing. It is built to just slay anything in its path. And I think having a gun like this, having a tool like this is incredibly important in the Air Force arsenal. So what could the Air Force do? Well, you could keep the A-10 around. obviously, or you could adapt it and advance it and actually build a more advanced A-10. Let's talk about what that would look like right now. So here's some images of this more stealthy looking A-10. I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. I like the fact that the gun is still beautifully intertwined into the jet. Looks like it's built around the gun, which is exactly what you would want. Now, ultimately, this thing is kind of like putting lipstick on a pig when it comes to stealthiness, because it's got all those hard points on it. So if you have hard points like that, the stealthiness is not going to be much better. You might as well just keep the A-10, keep the costs lower, and not try to kind of have a version that's in between stealth and not stealth, because the radar signature of this thing, just from what I can see with my eyeballs, with those pylons, it's going to be horrendous. It's going to look pretty dang similar, maybe slightly better than the A-10, but it's really not going to buy you much, but it's going to cost you a whole lot more. So if there was the ability to just make A-10s, roll more A-10s off the line, I think that they'd probably be way better off than trying to go with this middle ground. But I will say, it's interesting because when you look at the efficiency of this thing, I bet the efficiency of these engines would be relatively incredible. I mean, the slope of that intake, the new modernization in engine technology would be good. You'd save a lot of fuel, likely have way better loiter times, even though the A-10's loiter time is really great right now. We're talking probably 3+ hours. And then you add an aerial refueling, you're staying airborne for basically as long as you want until the pilot needs to be scooped out of the cockpit. But I like the fact that the visibility is good too on this aircraft. Maybe slight degradation to the rearward visibility, but it looks better visibility-wise to me than the actual A-10, because all you have is that little canopy bow, almost like an F-35 type canopy, so that's nice. That's something that you would definitely want. But if there was a way to conceal some of those weapons, like the Maverick, looks like there's an LGB on there, a 500-pounder. If there's a way to conceal those, have those in internal bays, then you would actually get some stealthiness that's probably worth it. But at the end of the day, it's a cool concept. I just think that you're probably not gonna get the bang for your buck out of that one. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. Let me know what you think about the A-10. Let's keep this bad boy around. Air Force, if you're watching, let's keep them around. If you need a test pilot to jump in and make sure these things are still good to go for years to come, I'm your guy. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hey, most of all, if you would, please just subscribe to the channel. It would help me out a ton. Turns out with the millions of views on the channel, only 20% of you all are subscribed. So if you would subscribe, it would help the channel grow, help me make more videos like this, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Most of all, have a great day.